Hi, I'm Danger Dan Jers, the host and GM of the D&D Real Play podcast, D&D Dark. Join us on Wednesdays for an absurd, over-the-top comedy horror adventure, starring some of history's most infamous monsters.
I'm Ben Magnet. I play Mary Frankenstein, our barbarian.
I am Daniel Cruz. I am playing Imhotep the Mummy, our cleric.
I'm Jordan, and I play Larry Talbot, a lycanthropic warlock.
I am Grayson, playing Jet Griffin, the Invisible Man, the party's rogue.
I am Aaron. I play the Phantom of the Opera, our bard.
For more information, go to dndarkpodcast.com and listen to us anywhere you find podcasts.
You've read the books. You've learned the rules. You've played the games. And so is your mom. Just making sure you're paying attention. Now, it's time for something completely off base. From the same guys who haven't done anything exciting yet are the Paladins of Podcast, Rob and Potato. Listen in as they talk about all things related to pen and paper games, challenge rules, and go off script. This is the high fantasy commentary you didn't ask for, but your mom did. This is the Epic Table Audio Show.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Epic Table Games Audio Show.
Epic Table Games!
Epic Table Games! With the Paladins of Podcast, Rob and Potato.
What's up, Potato?
What's up, man? So, recently I played a game. Called Unpacking.
Unpacking.
Yes, it's a simulator where you basically unpack stuff and put it in a room.
Hold on. Say it. Unpacking.
Yeah, unpacking.
It sounds like you say unpacking.
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 It's potato.
No. Unpacking. Okay, anyhow.
Man, it's just an unpacking simulator. It's such a dumb game, but I was actually getting very therapeutic for it. I was like, this is kind of fun. Don't know why. It's a very odd game.
You're totally wasting our intro on something unrelated to tabletop RPGs, but adjacent to. But this is not a game Yes, it is, actually.
It's not a video game. Can we restart that, actually?
No, we're jumping in. That's right. Okay, so, I came up across the thread, and I wanted to know, because we have talked about wanting to branch out from Pathfinder in our podcast, and we do it occasionally, and I want to do it more frequently.
Yeah, so what does it take to get into a new system?
So here's the thing. What I like to do is, whatever game we're playing, when it comes to an end or a conclusion, my favorite thing is when another player says, yo, I have an idea in this system, let's try. And I'm in.
Right.
I do read a lot of other game systems outside of the games I'm playing. I'm like, oh, I like this is a cool idea, etc. And sometimes I present those ideas. But the biggest thing for me is when somebody already knows the system and can help guide me through to learn. Yeah,
I agree with you there. If I have a little bit of a helping hand, it helps me continue on really grasping the new system.
Right. And one of the things that I really hate is when somebody's like, man, I really want to give this game over here a try, but nobody's willing to sort of step up and say, yeah, I'll learn it, we'll figure it out together.
Yeah, that's true. That happens a lot, actually.
It does. So, to all of our listeners, if you guys want to try a system, check it out.
Yeah.
In fact, there is a game that I picked up because I was interested in it, and the game is Fate of the Norms. And the reason I picked it up is because it's a Viking-based game that isn't Pathfinder or D&D. It's a completely different system, and I've read through it, and from what I understand, it doesn't even use dice.
Interesting.
It uses a rune system, which I think, from what I read briefly, the runes are still rolled like dice, and whatever pops up is pass and fail kind of thing here.
Gotcha.
But I haven't gone through the entire system. I've been really busy, haven't read through it all the way, but that's what I like to do. I like to read other rule sets and whatnot. And just having those ideas to say, hey, let's check out this other thing, somebody has to be able to do it.
Right. If you really want to just kind of step up and get into it,
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess you said it too. Is you have somebody who's willing to say, "Hey, let's give it a try."
Right.
Is there any other requirements? Do you like to actually look at things? I know that you're really set on Pathfinder.
Yeah, I'm very set on Pathfinder. It's definitely the go-to for me. But I feel with other game systems, it's more about a certain mechanic or flavor hook that gets me to be like, oh, I definitely want to get into this. I really want to learn this.
Right, absolutely. And I think if you have it right, like that flavor hook, like you're saying, something that draws you into the game is something that really is a great lead-in.
Yeah.
Like, I know that we've talked about Savage Worlds, and we haven't played Savage Worlds yet.
Yeah.
But I am familiar enough where the learning curve isn't as big as it used to be. And I can fumble through a first few sessions teaching some people. But yeah, I think that the ability to learn a system or work with somebody enough, that's the biggest draw. Somebody has to be willing to teach for most people.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot better to be told and explained to than just reading the book and trying to figure it out yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's just a comfortability thing because most tabletop RPG games are a social game, social environment.
Yeah.
So leader-follower mentality kind of really fits into that.
Right, and I've always liked the idea of sitting down with somebody, reading a mechanic or a rule or what have you, and then hearing what they interpret it as.
Yeah.
Especially if it's conflicting with how you interpret it. And then you discuss, oh, okay, that makes sense. Let's do it like this.
Right.
And then you go on from there. And yeah, that's the best way to learn.
Absolutely. I forgot we mentioned last week to talk about my squirrel character.
Oh, yeah?
And story time, right?
Story time.
Okay, so I was playing in a friend's game. This he hasn't been featured on our show, and this guy and I, he's actually the guy who got me into tabletop RPGs.
Oh, okay.
His name is Big Dave, and we've been friends for almost 30 years now.
Wow.
No, that's got to be wrong because I didn't meet him when I was 6. I met him. I met him when I was a little bit older. I guess we're pushing about 25 now because I was about 11 or 12.
Oh, okay.
So about 25 years.
Childhood friends.
Yeah, middle school. So it took a while for him to get me into game, and between getting into game and this session he was running, it had been years. So we had gone through our own hosts of good games, bad games, etc. But this particular character that I was playing was a little homebrewed, and it was DM okayed, so it's not something that you can generally just roll out and play.
Right.
But it took a little bit of convincing, and the background is that I was playing a squirrel. Now, a squirrel is an animal, and generally minimal. It has minimal intelligence, minimal abilities, etc. And there is a spell from the druid or shaman list, a transmutation spell that awakens an animal. And
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's animal or tree, and it's instantaneous. And its description is: you awaken a tree or animal to human-like sentience. To succeed, you must make a will save DC plus the animal's current hit dice, or the hit dice the tree will have once awakened. The awakened animal or tree is friendly towards you. You have no special empathy or connection with the creature you awaken, although it serves you in specific tasks or endeavors if you communicate your desires to it. If you cast Awaken again, any previously awakened creature remains friendly to you, but they no longer undertake tasks for you unless it is in their best interest. An awakened tree has the characteristics as if it were an animated object, except that it gains the plant type, and its intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores are each 3d6. An awakened plant gains the ability to move its limbs, roots, vines, creepers, and so forth, and it has senses similar to a human's. An awakened animal gets 3d6 intelligence, plus 1d3 charisma, and plus 2 hit die, and it becomes magical beasts, augmented animal. An awakened animal can't serve as an animal companion, familiar, or special mount. An awakened tree or animal can speak one language that you know, plus one additional language that you know per point of intelligence bonus, if any, and the spell does not function on an animal or plant with intelligence greater than 2.
Interesting.
So that's really the in-depth description of Awaken. And the reason that's important to know is because a squirrel can be awakened. And the background for my squirrel was that a druid had awakened me, and we were great friends, and I did more stealthy type missions for him as he was patrolling the forest, and eventually he thought that having more awakened animals was a great idea. And as for the spell, hey, it's just in my best interest to serve you if it's in my best interest.
Right.
So once he awakened more, I was no longer forced to be loyal to him, and I became an adventurer. So a squirrel in particular, by the way, even as a magical beast, as this may go, is diminutive.
Oh yeah, that's smaller than tiny.
Yeah, real small. And it's one of those interesting facts because it's a dexterity-based creature, and technically it falls under the guise of Awaken. You can't have an intelligence score greater than 2, and a squirrel caps out at 2. So,
right.
So I mean, you can play it, whereas 2 is it doesn't work on creatures 2 or higher, or it doesn't work on creatures 3 or higher. 2 and lower is good. We ruled that 2 and lower was acceptable. And we kind of talked about thumbs last episode, right?
Yeah.
So squirrels have enough thumbs to be able to hold tiny weapons. Tiny weapons do a buttload less damage. So I made the squirrel a ninja because a ninja is dex based, and even though dex does not get counted into your damage done, it doesn't count in towards damage. As a ninja, you get backstab. And backstab is additional d6 damage that is essentially unrestricted.
And it's like static,
right?
Basically untyped,
right? So,
heck yeah, that's how you get your damage now.
That was how I got my damage. And being tiny and hard to hit, I constantly always had to find ways to deny my opponent their dexterity bonus, which is really difficult when you're small.
Yeah. Oh, we're smaller than small.
Right. So long story was, it was super difficult. As much as the character was ridiculously fun, I ended up scouting out an entire orc encampment, and these orcs were raiding the nearby village, and I burnt it down to the ground single-handedly because I was small enough to run from hiding spot to hiding spot and use a smaller flint and steel to start little fires.
Yeah.
And it was fun, but the fact that I constantly had to find ways to deny opponents their dexterity due to my size and speed, I couldn't do that very well, which made me super ineffective in combat unless I was dealing the additional sneak attack damage. It was a fun character, but it was a hassle.
Now, that was actually my first bout at gaming as well, that session. That campaign with your Ninja Squirrel.
It was. That was your inaugural game session.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And I remember thinking, like, this is how the game works. You can kind of pull off some really cool stuff.
You can.
And what I thought was the most fun part of the whole thing was your Ninja Squirrel was actually party face. You did most of the pushing when it comes to RP, and that was really hard for you to try to convey a sentence when you can't talk.
Yes.
to a person looking at a squirrel dressed up as a ninja.
Yes. And thinking about it like that, you're definitely getting into the fact that my Ninja Squirrel is what tabletop RPGs are supposed to be. A little ridiculous, a lot of fun, and outside the normal.
Yeah.
A lot of people that I've played with, they're always like, I want this game to be more realistic. Like, I don't play fantasy games for realism.
True.
I've got a friend, very good friend. I love this guy to death. He has been working on his world and his story for the past 5 years.
All right.
He's got information written down that you as a player will never know. He's got information written down on where wind currents will be, and he knows how it will affect your campfire and what the results of that effect on the campfire will be. Realistically.
Wow. That's a little too much. A little too hardcore if you ask me.
Yeah, and he has it set up where he really likes the idea that when you gain a level, you don't actually gain a level until you train to gain said level.
Ah.
Yeah.
Making it a little too hard to play the game.
Yeah. And it's funny because he's basing everything off of 5th edition, which did its absolute damnedest to simplify the game. And here he is pulling rules that are from like the ass crack of the medieval tabletop RPG genre. He's pulling them back from obscurity and bringing them back in. And I love the world. I love the system. And I've joked around with him about creating characters that are absolutely ridiculous for his game. That just by raw standards are overpowered. And he's like, no, I don't know if I want you in the game. And I know I have told enough stories that says Rob is a bad player, and I'm really not. I like to create waves to push boundaries. You kind of need that sometimes. But I adhere to rules. I will say I do adhere to rules. I'll calm down and whatnot. So yeah, that's kind of like the quick story of my my ninja squirrel. It's a fun character. We overhyped it last episode for what I just delivered. That's because I forgot to bring it in at the beginning of the show.
It was a lot of fun, though. That was a blast.
It was for everybody but the guy who wasn't doing anything. That was me. Like it was a lot of work. You guys had fun. I had to work. All right, it's like everybody has a snow day and gets to go sledding except for Dad, who still has to drag his ass to work.
Right.
You know,
I had to shovel everything out and go to work, come back, shovel it again while you're having a snow day.
Dude, you have no idea. I did that today.
Yeah.
By the way. Okay, so anyhow, I also think that's a great way to bring up this fact that we have talked about this before, and it drives me nuts that we have to talk about it again.
Oh, we're going to bring up some bad DM stories?
Nah, I guess this is actually a light way into it. We're going to get into some RPG horror stories later in the episode. But this one is, it's actually titled directly, "My DM hates my artificer and has nerfed me to the point he's taking body parts." So
that sounds brutal.
Yeah, Reddit user Divinity Till End 101 says, "So I created a Battlesmith Artificer, level 7. His race is Damphir, and he has the feat Sharpshooter. The DM has told me on many occasions that my character solves all of the party problems, and in combat, my character dominates the battle. He resulted in making a creature to take my spells. He permanently removed my Steel Defender and took my eye, as in his own words, 'You have disadvantage on all ranged attacks. Should make you think twice with Sharpshooter.' I'm kind of at a loss of what to do. I've made a decently well-rounded character, but I feel like any action I make is seen as too strong."
Unbelievable.
Absolutely unbelievable. And I agree with Smooty Fack right here. He has the highest rated comments on this post. Leave. Your DM has near infinite number of tools, and I completely agree. There are ways the DM can deal with any character and situation, and to nerf your player who has a limited resource pool is a bad DM move.
Yes.
And
oh my God,
it's infuriating that we have to talk about this again.
Yeah.
I am tired of seeing stories of DMs who constantly do this. When you're new, trying to get your grip is one thing. Learning from your mistakes is the second step. But to continuously, repetitively do this, you are a horrible DM.
The sheer spite in that comment, make you think twice about Sharpshooter. I would have left right then and there.
Right. And I mean, think about it.
It's not a me versus you game. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Not at all. This is a cooperative storytelling game.
Yes.
And one thing I tell my players, you know this, and I think I've mentioned it on one of our episodes before, is that I am not telling my story. I am telling my players' story in a world that I have curated.
Exactly.
It is my players' story, and telling them no or constantly always belittling them or berating them or making things way too difficult on a continuous scale is not good DMing. Somebody chimes in, a battlesmith, because this is Dungeons and Dragons here, a battlesmith without steel defender and without spell with disadvantage at attacks is basically a commoner with more hit points.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, you've just nerfed your... If a DM nerfs his player, this pisses me off so much. A DM who nerfs his player does not understand how to DM.
Exactly. Like that top comment. A DM has the entire book.
Yeah.
He has the entire archive of content that system has.
Yes.
And he also has the fact that he's a DM. He can make ruling.
Right.
He can go off of his imagination. He can homebrew his own thing.
Right.
What does the player have? The character sheet. That's it.
That's all they have. And to take away abilities and to nerf it, it is ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
And, I mean, to kind of go off of what we got going here, he does say that the DM took his eye. Okay? Now, to take a body part, for example, is not always a bad thing. Okay?
No. There's other ways to make that work still.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've done things like this, for example, and this is to show the difference between the potential for storytelling and potential developmental growth.
Yeah.
And the DM that we're talking about in this scenario here. So there is an instance I had played a game, and as the DM, there was an opportunity for a character to enter into a brotherhood of assassins, similar to Assassin's Creed.
Oh, okay.
They willingly gave up a finger.
Yep.
For a hidden blade. That is character option. Acceptable. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
They chose to do so. It worked. Slight disadvantage on some dexterity checks, but they had some benefits elsewhere, such as a hidden blade. They could always quick draw. It was always considered a light blade. They could attack in any situation, such as being grappled, etc. The rules were there for them in that scenario. And, truthfully, I could have been ridiculous. I could have been like, you take a -2 to any long bow or short bow or compound bow, any manual bow. You take a -2 to your aim because you're one finger less.
Yeah, that makes it harder for me to do stuff.
Right. I could play hard mode. We could say that, and my character could come around and say, "Well, I'll hold it in my gimpy hand, and I'll draw with my regular hand." Well, it's still gimpy, so it'll still give you a negative. Yeah, that's a dick move. No.
Yeah.
I don't sweat the small stuff here.
And especially when it comes to limb-based stuff, there's prosthetics.
Yeah, there is, and there are ways to do this where you could say, honestly. See, it's really hard because taking away this character's eye when sharpshooter is his thing, an eye is a small, hard to hit body part anyway.
Yeah.
So it would have to be an extraordinary scenario.
Or fudged.
Well, that's obviously what he likely did.
Like getting killed in a cinematic.
Right. And I mean, let's say you take a horrible hit, right?
Yeah.
This monster rolls a nat 20 and confirms a devastating critical.
Right.
And story says maybe a loss of a limb could be kind of a cool play. I don't think I've ever been like, yeah, well, you lose an arm. If I was going to do that, I would specifically say this character's intention is to remove your arm.
Right.
And on this successful roll, this will likely happen. I have played games where it's been devastating like that because I give my players the opportunity to reattach limbs, resurrect bodies.
Oh yeah, give them
magic.
Yeah, give them every chance in the book to reclaim what you just took away because that's still fun for them trying to figure it out.
Right.
And if they can't figure it out, know what I would have done? If I was a DM, I would have pulled like the MCU, like we did with Thor. Oh, here's a magical eye. Here you go. You got your eyes back.
Right.
It took you a couple sessions. You had to fight through it.
Right.
Sure, maybe you have disadvantage still, but a couple sessions compared to the rest of the game is a big difference.
Right. Like, here's the case in this scenario. If I was in the position of this DM and I felt it was necessary to take his eye for whatever reason, and he was stuck with disadvantage on all ranged attacks as this DM did.
Right.
I would not say, A, should make you think twice about sharpshooter.
Yeah, that spiteful comment, no.
Absolutely. That's incredibly wrong. B, I would reassure him that this is not the end of his character.
Exactly.
You know, be like, hey, I have something planned. Okay? We're going to fight for being a little blinded for a bit.
Yep.
We're cool. Lo and behold, he would probably end up with like a headband of some sort of sight.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, easy as that.
Like a headband of true seeing.
Yeah.
You know?
That'll help.
Where he takes away the disadvantage, he's back to normal, but now he's just a little different. And if he ever loses headband or whatever,
And
etc.
especially depending on the character's backstory or in-game progression of his character arc, tie that in to make it more impactful and special of a moment to reclaim your sight. Don't just make it where, I'm just going to get my sight back, it's not a big deal, whatever. Make it part of the reason why. Make it special for that character.
Without a doubt. And you just mentioned something I wanted to touch on too. And this is kind of bothersome, both from the aspect of as I'm a player, as well as when I'm a DM. And that's, if something happens, it's generally super easy to just make it unhappen. Like a party of high enough level with a cleric or a paladin. I use these two because they are the ones that are going to do this immediately. Dealing with another party member who was cursed. The second you say you feel weak, something happens and you feel weak, you're drained, and then you're taking in negatives to your attacks, etc. Your paladin or cleric's gonna be like, well, I'm going to figure out why with this range of spells, and now I'm just going to remove curse. Like, that's great, but it removes the weight of said curse.
Yep.
So there are ways that you can deal with this as well. A, you need to be a little transparent, and I can say, no, you don't know you don't know he's cursed. You don't see the effects of him being cursed.
Right, right.
So
it's not apparent on him,
right,
and he doesn't know.
Right.
But this is what's happening.
Right.
Right.
And that goes to like the I don't want to tell you how to play your character, but really, the metagame. Your characters don't really know what's going on here. Or on the flip side, I don't tell him he's cursed. I just, behind the screen, do all the negatives for him. But because he doesn't know, now he's just feeling super ineffective.
Yeah, you have to drop a couple hints to where you can get it, but don't make it super blatant either.
Right. So, I mean, there are things that you can do, and the reason I want to talk about this is because this is what divides the good DMs versus the shitty DMs that I'm tired of talking about. And it's not, right now we're not talking about bad games. We mentioned tabletop horror stories that we'll get into a little bit. But these are DMs who are making bad calls, who are actively against the players.
Yeah, like, it's so butthurt sounding too.
Horrible. And these are the players that are looking for a DM who has a reputation for a good story, a good time, without being offensive, nerfing their players, etc.
Yeah, you don't want petty DMs.
No, you don't. And it reminds me of a time where I was playing with one of my favorite DMs, and I was playing a evil game. We were doing an evil game. We don't do those very often. Everybody wants to be the hero. Sometimes evil is a little weird. But anyhow, I was playing an evil game, and we drew up a contract devil for my character.
Okay.
And I love the concept. It was based off of Mr. Gold, Rumpelstiltskin from Once Upon a Time.
Gotcha.
And the idea was I would give people what they're looking for so I could have their souls and give them higher up my chain.
Right.
Great concept, but my DM kept screwing me over. He'd be like, well, you're just an entry level contract demon. Like, why would you be good at this? I'm like, why would I be bad at it? Like,
I am a devil after all.
Yeah, he's like, well, you granted him gold, but you were standing in the way of when it just fell on him. I'm like, why? Why am I being penalized for doing my job? Why? Like, I think the character was around level 7 or 9, so he wasn't completely inept.
Oh, okay.
But I'm like, why am I being harshly penalized? Why is it falling on me? Like, he's like, because you're new. I'm like, why would my boss kill me off?
Yeah.
Why would he be like, yeah, let's totally grant this and harm me in the way? Like, because he's a demon. Like, I'm his servant.
How could I be new if I'm 7th level?
Right. Like, I should have the slight hang of this. That game didn't last very long. but it was there. That wasn't a bad DM scenario. That was just, I think, trying to trade grips between a good game and a bad game. I'm sorry, not a good game and a bad game. A hero game and an evil player game.
Yeah. That's a better way of putting it, for sure.
Yeah, because when you're the hero, when you take chances with deals with the devil, you expect them to go wrong. When you're a bad guy, you expect the bad stuff to happen to other people because you're causing it.
Right.
Not misfortune upon yourself for doing what you're supposed to.
Yeah, that'd be a very odd thing. I'm gonna stop doing this then.
Right.
This is what's gonna happen.
Right. So,
I guess I'll be a good guy.
Honestly, we switched to a regular hero game, so apparently that's what we wanted.
I would love to play a character now who was a contract devil, then kept getting screwed over by sheer luck. He's like, you know what? I'm going to change my game. Became a good adventurer.
Right. But still, I mean, you're still based on the trading souls. But like, I'll help you out, but
Right.
your soul's still mine. But this is good. It's a good thing.
You want me to go to this dungeon and do this? I will need your soul as payment. Is that okay with you, boss?
It reminds me of those popular meme videos. But like, so you want this, but you need to do this.
Right.
No, I don't want to. So yeah, honestly, this DM that we're specifically talking about, if he's not going to make it a win for his players, stop DMing.
Yep.
I mean, I hate to be so cut and dry on this, but it's to the point where these DMs either have to learn that the story is for their players, not for them, or they need to stop DMing.
If you think the story is for you, then write it in a book and only read it to yourself before you go to night-night.
Absolutely. Without a
just
doubt.
Turn on your nightlight, get a little head cozy on, read your little fan story, leave it at that.
Right.
Unbelievable.
So, it is. And I'm going to keep driving this conversation into a few directions here.
Let's go.
Well, another question comes up, and it's something that we've talked about. What people's opinions are on players. So you and I, for example, bringing the same character to several games.
Oh, yeah. Crossover another character, like, why not?
I love it. So it sounds funny, and I'm hoping that you'll get a few ideas here because of where I'm coming from. We've talked about Thull.
Yeah.
And I have mentioned that Thull has come across in Dungeons and Dragons 3 is when he was introduced. He survived through 3.5. He retired from that campaign. He came back in 2 different Pathfinder campaigns. I built him in a Pathfinder Society game, and I kind of made a spiritual successor in a different system, like completely different game.
Okay.
But I mean, like no barbarian rage, but it was still Thull in spirit.
Oh, okay, gotcha. As close as you could with that system.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so what I say is that I really, really like the idea of bringing characters across multiple games and multiple different sessions.
It's a legacy character.
Yes, and I think when a player brings the same character that they absolutely love, only builds to that character.
It does.
Like, you can say, well, my character has slayed dragons. He has gone across the multiverse. He has lived in all these worlds.
Yeah.
And his background story can be beautifully written, absolutely colorful, and then as long as you're playing to the new game's rules without trying to say, hey, yeah, I've got this Vorpal Great Axe because I've had it forever.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
Right.
But your colorful background story is still cool.
I think your character stats and whatnot should be made for what level you are when you come into the story.
Right.
So a gear and amount of money you have should be according to that.
Right. And then, like, your skills and everything, they're still based on the game you're in.
Right.
So there are limits. Like, your background story does not dictate everything.
I can't imagine, like, oh yeah, I got a level 12 character. Can I bring him into this game? We're starting at level 5. Well, can I bring him? I really like my character.
Well, you can rebuild him at level 5, and he
Yeah.
can be a spiritual successor of the same character.
Exactly.
And you can add to that entirety.
That's what I would do. I would be like, oh, well, he needs to be level 12. That's the only way I can have fun with my character.
Right.
Like, we're not playing this game then.
I agree. And I think for my situation and scenario is a little different because I don't strictly play with the same people constantly, but I do have a core group of individuals that I play with regularly.
Right.
You know, I have the groups that I generally permanently DM for, and I generally have the groups that I usually play with. They are two different groups, and they are consistent. We generally always play the same character types, so I never have to worry about doubling up. Or if
So it's always a comfortable, like, party makeup.
Yeah, in fact, it's actually so normal for us to play certain roles that if I go outside of that, I get chastised.
Like, what are you being so weird for, Rob?
Actually, things become incredibly more difficult. If I don't play a mindless brute, for example, if I play an intelligence creature, it doesn't matter how intelligent my creature is, he always has a bad idea, and it always goes wrong. That is the only irritating part.
Kind of like what I did with your Thal, making it where he's like a dumb barbarian, but you're like, no, he actually has good intelligence, but I'm like, yeah, that's not what I'm imagining him.
Right. But yeah.
I guess that's the folly of having a legacy character, or having just a reputation amongst your group, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
Oh, that's a really long. So, with what we got going on, we wanted to talk about a few RPG horror stories, and I got 3 of them here that are pretty quick, and I read them all to you. I hate to say I read them. Like, we looked into them. It's late, or read them to you. It sounds like a bedtime story.
But it is very late. I'm very sleepy.
Don't say that. You're getting excited, pumped up. I'm still jacked up on Mountain Dew.
Oh, you are?
That is
I don't even feel that.
That is a Talladega Nights reference.
Oh,
Bro.
I haven't watched that movie in years, dude.
Chip, I'll come at you like a spider monkey.
Yeah, I like that. That was great.
I never did change my pee pants.
Save me, Tom Cruise.
Shake and bake. All right, so this one here, it's another DM issue, and horror stories are generally going to roll around bad DMs or bad party experiences, etc.
Yeah.
But the reason that this one really, really pushes that horror story, because it's something a lot of us do in the beginning of games when we're starting to learn how to DM. Title is Natural 20s Don't Count, but You'll Greatly Suffer from Natural Ones. Cold Ice Angel. So I had a DM that was obsessed with control and punishing the players. He knew that natural 1s and 20s didn't actually do anything outside of combat, and quoted that whenever someone rolled a 20. However, one of the players rolled a natural 1 and he punished us to the extreme. The player was trying to perform to get a discount on a healing potion and he rolled a 1. The DM had him crash into the cabinet. It toppled over and broke everything, and the shopkeeper had a heart attack and died on the spot, with no death saves, and no one was allowed to magically heal or revivify. The shopkeeper's son comes in, says we murdered his dad, and has a fucking witch hunt for us from the entire town we saved a few years ago. He put us on trial and sentenced us all to death.
Unbelievable.
That was the last game any of us ever played with that guy. I mean, okay.
That's 0 to 100 in a second.
It is. So, here we go. This is the case. The rule stands. Outside of combat, 1s and 20s do not count as auto successes and auto fails.
Right.
Okay, so that is how the rules state it. Potato, this guy's trying to perform to get a discount. He rolls a 1. What happens? Your game, what happens?
What he does, he just doesn't get the discount. No harm, no foul. He just did a very poor performance. The guy's like, yeah, I'm not impressed by that, buddy. Buy the stuff at full price still.
Okay.
Easy as that.
Easy peasy.
If anything, stubs his toe.
Sure.
Minor inconvenience.
Sure.
I'm not going to make him die.
So I'm following along. I can be cool with this. But like, you know what? You got so into your performance, you kind of lost what you were doing. You went into some modern dance, free form presentation, and you spun wrong, twisted your ankle, and fell into a cabinet, and it broke some stuff. He's not pleased. He does not want to kick you out of the shop, but you have to pay full price.
Yeah, that'd be literally as far as I'll take it right there. Pay for what you broke, leave it at that.
I wouldn't even have him pay for what he broke. Like, hey, accidents happen.
Okay.
Story wise, you kind of botched this one. But he doesn't die. The old town is not after you. What is wrong with these people?
Can you imagine the town's disposition? Like, how? That's old man German. You killed him?
I mean, seriously. Look, he puts us on a trial and sentences us all to death.
That's not even an offense. That's not how that works with law.
I mean, what is going on in this dude's DM book here?
A life for a life, I always say.
Cold Ice Angel, I applaud you from never playing with that guy again.
Yeah.
If you are listening, you guys did the right thing. You left that DM in the dust.
Now, if at the end of all this, he then says, I was joking, right? Let's continue on as if nothing happened. Maybe I'll continue playing. But if he was like, no, this is actually how this rolled, I'm like, oh, dude.
No, if my DM rolled all the way to the end of that session and said, yeah, so I was just joking. Like, no, screw you, dude. You know what? You're an a-hole. That shouldn't have gone down that way.
Unbelievable, man.
Right.
A performance check could get you killed.
Yeah. If it's a life or death scenario where you need to perform to have your ass saved, that's one thing.
That's one thing. But you're wanting to buy an item for a discounted price.
Right.
That's what it was.
Right. That's... Now I could also see in a scenario where this guy's performing, and he's performing to distract the shopkeeper so the stealthy rogue can steal an item.
There you go.
Now, sure, yeah, it absolutely all goes wrong, and he dies. Now you can steal everything.
Yeah, there you go.
That's turning a loss into a win, right?
Oh, the son walks up, says you killed him. Now the last guy in the building, might as well kill him too.
All right, so that's going to lead into
Murder Hobo,
which is another story I have here.
But if no one knows, you can just take over the shop, just set up your business here as normal. Oh, we inherited it.
You can't do that.
Oh, you totally could.
The town already knows who owns it.
We saved the town 3 years ago. You know us. He gave us the deed.
The town has a pulse of current events, and their finger is firmly on it. Okay, yours is not. So we talk about murder hobos. Let's get into this story because it's also 1 to 100 real quick, and it's not the DM's fault this time. Groggy Gollum says, so the player works with me to create their backstory session in a Star Wars RPG. All right,
cool.
So Star Wars RPGs are a little out of my realm. I've played a few of them. Only because as much as I like Space Marines, Star Wars isn't Space Marines. It's I don't know, lasers and bad.
It's space opera.
Yeah, that's actually the genre it's in. Anyways, in the group, I made an individual player the co-GM for that session in terms of plot and characters. I present the scenario, and they have confidence to guide the group through their backstory in terms of how they want to handle it. The player has this backstory where they worked with a group of anti-establishment hackers, but broke away from the group when they didn't put themselves in danger to rescue his family. These people reached out to get in touch with the player's character for help. This was late into a campaign that derailed hard into murder hobo territory, and this player had just come back to the group after a long absence. He wanted to play a Jedi at this point, so we gave his character a lightsaber and some Force stuff to match the group's experience and gear level. He made no indication of wanting to be a murder hobo. It turned into an absolute massacre with the main player in question full-on movie horror villain hunting down these people and murdering them. And the entire party took part in it. None of it was provoked. These NPCs were not combatants. I told the group they didn't need to roll. Any aggressive action would do whatever they wanted. These people weren't fighting back. They were running for their lives. The party wanted to roll anyway to see how well they murdered the NPCs. I looked at him and said, "We're skipping the light-dark game mechanic. You are now full dark side."
Yes. I can imagine how much fun they're having at the behest of the DM going, "What in the world, you guys?"
Right.
But that's unbelievable. I feel bad for the new guy that came back in,
No.
the Jedi.
That's what he wanted.
He didn't want to be a murder hobo.
No, he did.
Oh, he did?
He did. I had no qualms with it. He was all like, "Yo, here's my backstory." When he finally came back to the game, he was like, "I'm killing them all," and he told nobody about his plan. And so the DM's like, "Yo, this is legit," and the players are like, "Yo, we're cool with this." And then he was like, "I'm killing them all," and the rest of the party says, "Let's do it." And the DM is the one who's like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
So,
oh man.
Somebody follows up on this question to this guy's story. He says, "If I may ask, how'd they react to that? Were they expecting to end up full dark side with that? I'm not familiar with the specific system, so I'm not sure how it works." Groggy Gollum follows up, says, "They were fine with the result. The system was the FFG Star Wars series of RPGs, and there's a light-dark system that pretty much puts players on the path towards the light for being heroic, the default assumption in the game, and there are rules for how many dark side points a player can get, which is offset by a D10 roll at the end of the session. Scale goes from 0 to 100 with a neutral character starting at 50, falling to the dark side below 30 and becoming a light side paragon above 70. Once you reach one of those, you have to go all the way to the other goal to change sides. One count of murder is written as 10 plus points in the rulebook, and you can only roll a max of 10 to offset the points at the end of the session, so they kind of encourage the GM to give more than 10 points for the murder. Considering this was like 30 wars since actually rebelling against a tyrannical empire, these people both begged for their lives and tried to run away, and they were attacked by the group. This was led by that one player. The rest of the group is pretty much taking cues from his actions. So if I really wanted to calculate it out, it'd be multiple counts of 10 plus points of murder, along with wanton destruction, torture, intentionally causing fear, and standing by while others performed evil deeds. Easily would have dropped below 50, from 50 to below 30 if I wanted to calculate it out, but I was just being a dramatic GM to make it more exciting. I set the player at 0 at that point, and they were cool with it.
Wow. Gosh.
So,
what a wild session that must have been.
Absolutely. First point here, Groggy Gollum, good job. You went with it. You rolled with it. It sounded like it was a blast for the players. It didn't go the way it sounded like you were expecting.
Right.
But damn it, bro. You pulled it off well.
Yeah. Way he was rolling with it. Perfect.
Yes.
He wasn't being like, "Oh, well, I'll make you think twice doing this. Let me take out your eye."
Right. This was seriously, you guys are murder hoboing it. You're going all the way.
Yeah, you're going to be full dark side.
I mean, I see what you're doing, and you're still doing it. I'm not stopping you. Let's go.
Change all your names. Put Darth in front of it.
Bro, I hope that's what they did. I hope it wasn't a one-shot, by the way, either. I really hope that this was just a team of murder hobos who are like, I want to use this system to be an a-hole.
You know what? I can imagine a one-shot being the only way for them to be like this so wholeheartedly without any resistance.
Yeah.
If it was like the first start of an actual campaign, and they just started doing this without like any like preparation for the DM.
Right.
Like that'd be a little odd. If it was a one shot, I could totally see that happening like every time if someone started it.
See, my favorite thing about this is that they worked on the backstory. They worked on this entire thing together, and the DM had absolutely no idea that this character was planning on murdering everybody who said, "No, I'm not going to help you." Like, that is a revenge story to the core. And then the fact that he had other players who are like, "Yeah, we're cool. Let's go." I mean, that plays into the fact that fantasy-based role-playing games in general are designed for murder hobos. Okay,
It kind of is. Yeah.
I mean, especially in experience-based games, you get experience for killing things.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, we're just gonna kill things
Doing games, video games all the time.
all the time. It's a grind. People do it.
Yeah.
But the fact that this particular story, I don't want to count it as a horror story. I know that's where we found it, but I love it.
I actually think it was a good story. I don't think it was a horror story at all.
No, I think the only reason it can be considered a horror story is because it went sideways real quick.
Yeah.
But the DM handled it gracefully. I dig it. It's fun. I don't think anything went wrong with the overall performance.
And from what he was saying, it doesn't sound like he has any like resentfulness toward it.
Right.
He's taking full stride like a good DM.
Right. And then the players didn't talk back. They didn't try to do anything incorrectly. Everybody was in agreement at the end, and then we keep going. I like it.
Yeah, perfect. That's actually a perfect way for for a murder hobo evil session to go down.
Absolutely. And this last story here, kind of makes the DM seem like he's the murder hobo.
Oh,
Yeah. So this one is a quick story by Caddis Cruitt. I can't say this name. I don't know if it's late or not, but it doesn't matter. I'd like to get credit, but
just say Caddis.
yeah, Caddis Cruis, whatever. Cruitt. I gotta stop.
Croy.
Sure.
Caddis Croy.
Sure. Whatever. If I can read your name but can't say it, I'm at least winning some front. I can read it. Okay, so first ever D&D campaign, I was playing a goblin cleric. I don't know how you'd play a goblin cleric, but whatever.
That's fun.
This is a fantasy-based RPG. The party happened upon a mansion, so we sent ahead our ranger to do some investigation. She ended up getting into combat with a vampire, so the rest of the party proceeded towards her. Unbeknownst to the party, the ranger had managed to skip to the final encounter of the dungeon to reach her. So to reach her, we had basically had to speed run a whole dungeon. She was quickly killed by the vampire, so it became a race to get to her corpse before 10 turns had expired, so she could be revived. Excuse me. As the cleric, this put a lot of pressure on me. It took us more than 2 hours to get to the same room as her corpse, but there was a single waist-high wall in the way.
Oh no!
As a goblin, this was a significant obstacle to overcome. We tried to bargain with the GM, but they got angry, shouty, and threatened to stop GMing for us if we tried to tell them what to do. In the end, the GM told me to roll a 20 to climb the wall in time, or the ranger dies. I did not roll a 20. As soon as she saw what I rolled, the ranger's PC left the game on the verge of tears.
Yeah.
We tried to have a short funeral service afterwards, but one of the players recently had experienced a death in the family and left the game crying.
Oh man.
We ended that session early.
Yeah, I can imagine so. Bad call by the DM.
I agree.
Right away. If you're at the same height basically as a wall,
Yeah.
you don't need to roll a nat 20 to climb it, whoever you are.
Right.
A goblin's like 3 foot tall.
Yeah.
That's waist height. That's like 3 foot tall. So that's like a move action.
Yep.
That's not a nat. You don't need to roll a nat 20 to climb over a wall that's right above your head. Get out of here.
No, not at all. I mean, you're right. 3 foot goblin. It's not a short wall, whatever you described it.
Waist height.
Yeah, let's same as a waist high wall.
Yeah.
In a way. So even if it's waist high,
Yeah.
for a medium creature, which means it's a goblin is small, which means a waist high medium creature, it's about head height. For this guy. Okay.
It's like climbing over a fence. You can do that, whoever you are.
Yeah. Well, you have to roll a natural 20 in order to climb the wall in time. So unless this wall is right on the other side of a door,
Or covered in spikes.
or something ridiculous, It could have been as easy as, you know what? There's a DC, give it a running long jump. You can vault right over the wall and save her. There's a DC attached to that already.
Right. That makes enough sense.
Absolutely.
But just straight up climbing it like a normal person would?
Right.
Get out of here.
No DC to that to get to it in time. You could even have said, you know what? You're running really low on rounds here. If you walk up to the wall and climb over it, it will take a round.
Yeah. It'll just take a little bit of extra time. There won't be no penalty where you're still stuck at the wall.
Right, because you're looking at move action, get to wall. Move action, climb over wall.
Yes.
Double move, 1 round.
Oh, I got an idea. He has other people with him, right? It's not just him running through the dungeon?
Right.
The other people, I'm assuming, are medium-sized.
Probably.
They can't chuck him over the wall to, speed it up, pick him up.
There are options.
But a fireman carry him? Come on.
Absolutely solid options. All right? It's a small wall. What the hell is this DM thinking?
That kind of small potatoes should not have been anywhere close to a discussion. It shouldn't be to a point where they had a bargain and him to blow up and say, "Oh, I'm never going to GM for you guys again."
That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
It's a freaking wall. All right?
Yeah.
At this point, it's not even a solid wall. It's a half wall at most. It's a short wall. It's a pony wall. Who cares how you want to describe it? This DM directly wanted to kill a character.
That's what he wanted. He wanted her to die. He didn't care about anything else. He didn't care about the story.
Right.
He just wanted her to die.
He did. And he wanted to give the illusion that there was a possible success.
Yeah.
And there wasn't. I mean, seriously, again, I should probably stop reading DM horror stories because it irritates the shit out of me.
It gets the fire going, man.
Oh my god, it does, because we said it before. This is not an us against them.
Yeah, it's a collaborative story. No one understands that apparently in these Reddits.
Nobody.
Another thing too, in the very beginning, the ranger went ahead to scout it out. Somehow skipped the whole dungeon, but then got attacked by the vampire at the end. So now everyone else had to rush through the dungeon?
You know,
how did that happen?
Extenuating circumstances may be plausible.
It really made it feel like he wanted to separate her and kill her.
Yeah. So here we got somebody who comments, Tamarius Xenomorph. The rest of this seems pretty okay. Sometimes stuff goes wrong when scouting, but getting defensive and shouting and requiring a natural 20 to climb a 3-footish wall. We were talking about that. It seems definitely excessive. Like raw climbing uses 1 extra foot of movement, so it should have just used 2 to 3 more feet of your movement than normal.
Boom,
like
right
a DM
there.
can choose to assign a DC, but for such a short obstacle, why?
Yeah, why?
Why? Yeah. And so the OP, he comes back and says, I guess they just really wanted to do things according to the story. It was miserable during gameplay, though. I think it would have been better if the PC got captured or something instead of whatever actually happened.
My question is, how did he use that wall as part of the story? Where was the story element there? How's the Nat 20 roll a story element?
Right.
That makes no sense.
So here's the rest of the conversation between T Xenomorph and our OP. It says, it can definitely hurt to have a character die, but death is part of the game. Vampires tend to be pretty murdery.
Yeah, they're good at what they're doing.
So far, he's on point. So I can't fault the DM for that. But the death sounds legit. I can say the death is sure. However it happened, sounds legit. But I can fault the DM for setting arbitrarily high DCs for small obstacles, ignoring standard rules just so a character can't be saved because they think they shouldn't be, or that they're mad at their players. It's not one of those jaw-dropping kind of horror stories, and it's not. It's really just a dickhead DM. But it does sound like a slog of a session with an intentionally unfair climax.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that all the players were not satisfied. They did not have a good time.
Right.
The
OP comes back with his last comment about this story. He says, yeah, it was a really bad session that taints my memory of the campaign.
Yeah, it would taint my memory, man. That's just so ridiculous.
If you are running a game and one moment ruins a person's memory of the entire campaign,
yeah,
bruh, you're doing something wrong. It needs to be corrected. So
for shame.
Yeah.
For shame.
Yeah, let's try to lighten up the mood a little bit because we are actually dead nuts over time on what we usually stick through.
Oh, all right. character spotlight?
Yes, I want to hear about this character. And if I remember correctly, is this the Fire Swamp character?
Yes. What I wanted to do was to develop a character who really leaned on fire magic, and not really so much as pumping out ridiculous damage, because I feel that's somewhat easily able to do.
Absolutely.
But it's more about penetrating the DC, making sure that's too high so no one can reflex save or use evasion easily enough.
So that's how I like to build my casters. I really like to make it... I joke around saying that if the DC is hard for me to pass, then my spells are powerful enough.
Yeah, it makes sense. It definitely does. And I really wanted this swamp factor because I can't remember what game or what movie it was.
Swamp Thing.
But I remember seeing this character who was in the swamp and just having fire all over the place, changed the whole place into an action wasteland. I thought that was really cool. I don't know if that's Swamp Thing. I'm pretty sure he doesn't use fire. I'm pretty sure he's scared of fire.
Actually, his entire lab in the swamp burned down.
Oh, really? Yeah. Is that the DC Swamp Thing you're talking about? The DC hero?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I was thinking Creature of Black Lagoon when he said Swamp Thing. Different people. Never mind.
Totally.
Anyways,
different people, bro.
Back to this. So, of course, naturally, I was thinking of going down Sorcerer.
Yeah.
And going through this little bit of a rabbit hole trying to get the swamp element was really, really kicking me in the butt, actually.
Sure.
And I was debating on multi-classing to Witch, because for some reason Witch had that swampy feeling to it for some reason.
Did you watch Pirates of the Caribbean recently?
No.
That's a fair question.
But I think I just decided to go a straight standard sorcerer.
All right.
With the red dragon bloodline.
Okay. Now, again, we're still in Pathfinder characters, right?
Yep, still Pathfinder. Yep.
Okay.
Because with the red draconic bloodline, you get some fire acuity. I think it's +1 to your DCs right then and there.
Mm-hmm. Now that's all fire-based stuff, right?
Fire-based spells. And then when you get far down the line, you would get fire breath, of course, dragon's breath, not fire breath,
sure.
Dragon's breath. You would be able to get wings at level 15, which that'd be really fun. But I only built her up to level 10.
Okay.
I feel level 10 was where she was good and ready.
All right.
I don't want to get too crazy about it. You also get claws at first level, the draconic bloodline. Probably not going to use it, but that's kind of cool to get claws.
Well, yeah. I mean, we take the caster who typically stays away from melee combat because they're squishy.
Usually are.
Absolutely effective squishy. But if you have a character, if you have a player character who is specifically searching for magic casters, and the way that Pathfinder specifically has designed a lot of it is melee characters can be devastating to casters so long as they can get to them.
Right.
So claws come in handy, even at first level. I know they're kind of wimpy, but it's something that you have to look at first level as comparative to first level.
Yeah. It's I think it's a very good, very, very good quick maneuver you can do if you're in a pinch. So let's start off with race. I decided to go with half-orc.
Okay. Now that's an interesting race choice because when you're looking at magic casting abilities, magical affinity really seems to lie better with humans who have the +2 stat bonus to any stat, or elves who have a natural magic ability. Natural magical affinity, and that +2 to their stat is usually their casting ability, like your wizard or sorcerer.
Yeah. Usually that's what people like to go for and not be a caster. You really want to make sure to get the bonuses where they need to be right off the get go.
So was your race choice here particular because you were trying to play on the swamp feature, and half orcs generally tend to be like green and swampish looking anyway?
Yes, that's how it started. And then I noticed for the sorcerer favored classes, the favored class bonus, I should say, for the half orc, you add half of your caster level to your fire damage.
Okay.
So at level 10, that's 5 extra damage to your fire. I'm like, wow, that linked in perfectly.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. Well, I'm definitely going to make in this.
Right. So that's really the hinge on adding your additional damage.
Oh yeah,
is the extra favored class bonus, the favored class bonus that is racially driven.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It works with any fire type. Because some fire spells is like only 3d6. Nothing else is added on top. Well, this adds on top.
Right.
So that helps.
That additional damage makes your makes your spells more powerful without the need to extend, maximize, enhance, heighten, etc.
Oh yeah, those meta feats. Yep, the meta magic feats. I'm still trying to understand those. I'm not really a magic builder.
Sure.
So I'm like, okay, so you do this, but you have to spend this spell as X slot higher. Like that's just wild. It makes sense, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to deal with any of that.
Okay.
I did get intensified spell though.
All right, so we're still working in the meta magic with intensify.
Yeah, that's the only one I picked up.
That's all right. So the idea behind intensify is that it actually increases some of your variables by a certain percentage, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So you increase it by 5 caster levels if you have the caster levels to go on.
Right.
So, example, at level 10, Burning Hands only caps at 5d6,
Yep.
but with Intensify, now it's 10d6.
Right.
So that makes it a lot more potent than Fireball right then and there.
Right.
Which is super cool. And also, it's 1 slot higher, and Burning Hands is pretty low, so you can definitely cast it, no problem. With Fireball level 10, I don't think you can intensify it.
No,
I don't think you
because
can pull it off.
You're at max for what you can cast,
Exactly.
etc.
Yep. I also picked up a alternate racial trait.
Okay, now traits we don't generally talk about too much.
Right.
And a lot of people don't know that in Pathfinder particularly, alternate racial traits help kind of help determine or point out the fact that races can be varied in nature.
Yes. It can be anywhere from a dwarf having hatred against giants to a dwarf being super good at doing overrun, like the last character build.
Right. Or even more widely variable. Like I don't remember if this is one. I know that there's one for gnomes, so I'll use that. You can be like an aquatic gnome. Gnomes who live on or in or by water, etc.
Right. Some of them are very cool, and especially have like a physical descriptor.
Yeah.
I really like those racial traits.
Right.
Like this one is called Warded Skin.
Okay.
Thought this made sense for this like tribalistic swamp character, because what Warded Skin, what it basically says that you are protected by elaborate tattoos that redirect demonic magic. So, let's see. Jungle half-orcs with this racial trait gain spell resistance against divine magic equal to 6 plus their level. Additionally, divine spells cast on them by demon worshippers have a 10% chance of failure. I thought that was pretty cool.
So I'm thinking story-wise for your character here.
Yes.
We have him set up where he is a living in the swamp.
Yeah.
Fire magic up to wazoo. Really good at what he does. He is warded or protected by some measure against demonic divine spells. So cultists of many different kinds.
Yes.
Etc. Kind of either makes him more of an outlier of society or kind of a shut-in who doesn't want to deal with anybody, hence why he's living in a swamp.
Yep. I was kind of going on this like anti-hero deal where he's like, oh, he's not like a good guy, but he's an all right guy.
Well, see, the way it really feels now is because what I was initially thinking as we were talking about this is the character is designed to be kind of like not necessarily the big bad evil guy in a campaign.
Yeah.
But not a good guy.
He's like your Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z.
I can see that because Vegeta still ends up being a good guy.
Yeah.
And your character, once we look at the fact that he is protected against demonic magic by measure, kind of puts him in that realm of good guy.
Right.
So, all right, let's. Where does he really come to shine? I mean, what's his big feature besides just a few of those racial traits? Because that all seems like it's adding small potatoes to a larger meal.
Yeah, and this is a tricky thing for me to do because I really want to lean into the swamp deal. I really want to be like a pyromancer kind of deal. But with this build, it's really mostly fire with a little bit of swamp. All the swamp aspects really comes from the spells, which is sad. I couldn't figure out like an archetype that felt swamp dweller-ish. Gave me abilities that felt swamp dweller-ish.
Well, I think what we have here then in this character spotlight is the pyromancy.
That's the primary
aspect of the character is the character. Yes. And I think that the swamp aspect is the story driver. Because you can take the swamp out.
Yeah, you totally could.
And you can replace it with other elements, geographical elements and other spell types that also really build it. So while we think of Swamp Thing on fire, it could really be Mountain Man on fire. It could be Desert Man on fire. Arctic
Goblin.
Arctic Tundra Goblin on fire.
I don't even want to change it to Goblin, actually. You should keep the half orc. Come on.
Right. I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, the character build actually hinges on the half orc.
Yes.
Alternate racial ability.
Yep.
Because of that additional damage, plus a little bit of the fire aspect. So you have created a character that is min-maxed in that actual area of fire, and it works. Yeah. It works. I like that. Yeah,
and of course we pick up spell focus, evocation. You pick up the greater spell focus that bumps up the DC.
Right, and
that bumps up by 2 at that point.
Yep, and all of these are just your general feat progression.
Yes.
And pretty standard for most magic casters.
Yeah, you get everyone's gonna pick up elemental focus, fire as well if you want to lean into the fire aspect, of course. At level 7, you get a bonus feat as a sorcerer.
Yep.
I picked up Quicken Spell.
Sure. Now, again, that Quicken you're still leaning into meta magic.
That is not meta magic. It is,
you realize it or not.
Yeah. But I thought it'd be nice to do Burning Hands and then Scorching Ray in one turn. That's cool. That's definitely cool. Here's a feat that I never really thought was a thing.
Okay.
Mage's Tattoo.
So Mage's Tattoo is a really interesting one.
It is.
I don't want to get too much into it because of how much farther we've gone over the episode here.
Yeah, we can definitely highlight this in the post.
Yeah, absolutely. But Mage's Tattoo is one of those feats that, unless you're specifically looking for ways to enhance casting abilities, you don't really know it's there. And it's a feat that I totally suggest you check out in any casting class at all, ever, because of its versatility.
Oh, yeah.
And what it does.
And I definitely think with Mage's Tattoo, it kind of kicks back into the Warded Skin.
Yeah.
Because that was also tattoo work.
Yep.
So I thought that definitely linked in very well. And really, everything else, we really just went over the spells. I'm not going to go over every spell that I have listed here. With this build, you're basically going to pick up your fire spells. Easy. That's already done over with. But I will like to go over some of the other spells that I felt kicked in the swamp feature.
Now, I think that's one of those things that we could really dedicate to the post because we've just talked about how this is fire primary.
True. Yeah.
So, your goal is to have this up on the website, epictablegames.com, within the next few days.
Yep.
And then, hopefully, you guys can check it out all out there.
Yeah, if I can time this out right, it'll be posted up shortly after the episode launches. That way, you don't get spoiled beforehand.
Right. So, episodes come out Saturday. We're thinking Monday, Tuesday?
Yeah, probably Tuesday, actually. That'd be a great time to do it.
Rock and roll. Let's wrap it up then. I'm glad everybody tuned in. It was a fun episode to do. I really had a good time.
Yeah, dude, the stories are really good. I like talking about those stories.
Yeah, I think we should take a look at a few of those every episode or every few episodes and whatnot.
Yeah.
Tell us what you guys think. You can actually submit answers to questions through Spotify. Check us out. Again, check us out online, epictablegames.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/epictable or join our group at facebook.com/groups/epictablegames. That is super repetitive. I am tired of saying it. Epic Table Games. Come on, guys. You know where we're at.
You might as well make an audio drop so you have to repeat it every single time.
I just like Epic Table Games.
Epic Table Games.
Until next time.
Stress, nights, roll, nights, fantastic, night, fairy tales, dragons, stress, nights, roll, nights, fantastic, night. Make way for the paladins. Make way for the paladins. Epic Table Games. Make way for the paladins. Make way for the paladins. Epic Table Games. Thank you for listening to the Epic Epic Table Audio Show with the paladins of the podcast, Rob and Potato. Until next time, stay in touch on Facebook at Epic Table Games and online at epictablegames.com. Yeah. Epic Table Games. Yeah. Epic Table Games.